Echoes of a Broken Man, Episode 3. Shadows between the lines. The morning sun streamed through the classroom windows. But Daniel barely noticed. Sketchbook was open, pencil poised over the blank page, ready to capture whatever thoughts and feelings refused to stay silent in his mind. The echoes of his sister's laughter still lingered, sometimes in fragments, sometimes in whole moments that pressed against his chest. Today, those echoes felt heavier, closer, as if each line he drew was another tether to a world he couldn't fully reach. Mandy nudged him gently. "You're really quiet today, Daniel. Did you forget your lunch again?" Sofia leaned over, a teasing smile on her lips. "Or maybe you're drawing another secret masterpiece. Can I see it?" He shook his head, a faint smile slipping through anyway. Drawing had become a shield, a way to hide from the questions, from the whispers, from the grief that clung stubbornly to him. It was easier to pour everything onto paper than to speak, to risk disappointment or misunderstanding. The pencil became a voice he could control. The classroom hummed with the usual chaos, papers rustling, chairs scraping, murmurs bouncing off the walls, but Daniel barely noticed. His focus was internal. The world outside blurred as he sketched, shaping imaginary figures in lines that somehow reflected the emptiness and pain inside him. Break time arrived, and he walked with Michael to their usual spot under the big tree near the tuck shop. Michael, ever the entertainer, launched into an exaggerated story about how he had accidentally worn 2 different shoes that morning. "I was a fashion trendsetter before anyone else noticed," he said, striking a pose that made Daniel chuckle despite the heaviness in his chest. "Only you could turn that into a comedy act," Daniel muttered, shaking his head. Michael grinned, handing him half of his sandwich. "You see, Daniel, humor is the glue. Keeps the pieces from falling apart. Trust me." The two of them spent break time debating which cartoon character would win in an imaginary battle, laughing as Michael animatedly flailed his arms, making Daniel's pencil hand pause for a split second to capture the ridiculousness. For a moment, grief was a shadow at the edges, a silent observer instead of a weight pressing down. Back in class, Daniel's mind returned to Mandy and Sofia. The girls noticed when his pencil lingered over certain shapes, when his gaze seemed distant. "You're really good at this, Daniel," Mandy whispered. "Maybe one day you could show everyone." He shook his head softly, afraid of exposing too much. Yet, the thought lingered, a small seed of possibility in the soil of his grief. For the first time since the loss of his sister, he considered that maybe his art could be a bridge, a way to connect without words, without risking the awkwardness of speech. The afternoon dragged on, each lesson blending into the next, but Daniel found solace in the lines forming under his pencil. Shadows and light danced across the page, telling stories he couldn't voice, holding pieces of his grief and moments of fleeting joy side by side. When the bell finally rang, signaling the end of the school day, Daniel packed up slowly. Michael was waiting outside, bouncing on the balls of his feet, a grin plastered across his face. "You survived another day," Michael said, mock saluting, "and I didn't even see you fall asleep in class this time. Progress." Daniel smiled, feeling the tiniest flicker of hope. The world was still heavy, the grief still pressing, but he wasn't alone. Mandy and Sofia were there, drawing him gently into conversation. Michael was there, chasing laughter into the dark corners of his heart. As he walked home that evening, sketchbook clutched against his chest, Daniel realized something. Grief would not vanish overnight, but in moments like these, between pencil strokes and laughter, between shadow and light, he found the strength to continue. Hit that like button, don't forget to subscribe, and join us again on our next chapter of Echoes of a Broken Man.